Leading with tax planning is something we should all be doing moving forward. On this episode of Tax Pro Talk, or hashtag TPT, I catch up with Michelle Hammond talking about tax planning. And so in part one, we hinted a little on the tax planning and tax reform impact it's had with your clients.
Absolutely.
And I know you talked about doing some tax planning.
Yep.
So I want to dig in a little more, if we can, on that.
Okay.
In part one, you talked about getting new clients in through the tax reform impact and doing planning with them.
Absolutely.
So how in depth are you going with them? How do we illustrate value?
So it depends on the client, of course. Some clients, they glaze over when you start to talk about details.
Sure.
But like the bigger clients and the business clients, the Section 199A clients, we're diving in deep, and we've gotten a lot of new business just because of the tax planning, side of what's going on with tax reform. Because there's a lot of factors that go into a person's tax return now. And understanding what that bottom line is going to be. Okay. So we've absolutely gained a lot of clientele, and we're kind of transforming how we do tax planning and how we handle clients. We're trying to be more hands-on, and we're using this to add the product of saying, it's probably going to be worth it to you from now on to do a bundle of your tax return and tax planning throughout the year. So it's been a great way to kind of add that into the value billing.
Sure. Now, how do clients, you say you're getting in a lot of new clients, so are they know that you're doing tax planning? How do they know the services that you're offering?
Well, when they call in, if it's a new client, they'll ask that question, but also there's so much uncertainty in what the tax situation and what is going to look like for them. We're just getting tons of business, even for people who usually do the return. They want to come in, have us do the return, and they immediately start talking about tax planning. So instead of just doing a short little look at the screen, look at what maybe some adjustments might be, we're actually setting up follow-on appointments for extensive tax planning.
Got it. And I know in part one we talked about how you do the bundling of service, and planning is a part of that. And then are you having the quarterly meetings with like business clients and teleconference? How do you set up those meetings?
So in the past and still now with our bundle services, we kind of have all these a la cartes, and they can choose what they want, and we bundle it and make and give them a price. Okay. Now I would just say that there's more desire. Before, a lot of times that's something they would take out, like, I want my fee a little lower, I'm not going to do that piece of it. Okay. Now they're very interested in it, and we're definitely adding that. We're seeing a lot more of people choosing that in the package, and yes, we're doing, depending on how much the client wants. Monthly, quarterly, annually,
Good. And are you illustrating to, hey, are you putting it down on paper to say this is how much we're saving you in tax? Like, are you illustrating that value?
We absolutely do a write-up for them, and those services, some people say, I don't want to get on the value billing, or I'll just make an appointment, and those are our most expensive services. And so we really encourage them to get on the value billing because they'll get a much better rate for that, because they always see the value.
Fantastic. And then another part of that is, some clients don't want to pay for the additional fee, or some tax pros don't want to ask, their client to pay for this additional service. Yeah. So what would you tell other tax pros that are just now tiptoeing into tax planning and charge? Because that's big value they're providing.
I would say I just did this a year ago because I was the same way. It's really hard. Sometimes they'll call you, ask you one question, or I started everyone has to make an appointment to talk to me, even if it's a 15-minute. I don't accept phone calls anymore. Okay. And then I started charging, and I upped the rate a lot because it all actually encouraged them then to go to the value billing. Whereas before they didn't value what I was
the work
I was doing. Now I gave them this rate. Well, if you'd like some tax planning, there's going to be a lot of tax savings for you. It's going to be $4.95 an hour, something like that. And then they would come back and I say, or you could do the value billing. We do the tax return, tax planning, and then they will always jump over to the value billing.
Got it. And that way now you know what you're having every month come in, revenue-wise, capacity, things like that.
And now I'm not, when I accept a phone call, going, now I'm like, it's
now
great
you're excited,
to talk
right?
to you.
So this transformation has created excitement.
Oh, yeah.
In your firm. And I know we've talked that around firing clients, adding clients. You just went through a big phase of that.
Yes.
So what advice would you give to another tax pro out there where they may have a client that it's time to fire them, but they're scared of revenue.
Yeah. Well, what I always do with clients like that, and I had a very big client, $40,000 a year client that I let go. I let go of them by raising the prices. I just start raising the prices, and they decided to leave. And I would say the drain that they had on our firm and on me was so worth it because we had the capacity to take more. We immediately had room for more clients. I mean, we didn't miss a step. But there is that fear of I don't want to let this client go, but then they just want more and more and more and more from you, and you're exasperated. It's not good for your firm or for the client. So I would say let them go.
So
You'll be better off.
even though they aren't a large revenue client, you have to take a step back and see what impact it's having on your firm and the cost they're having.
Actually look at like this client that I lost, when I actually went back and looked at, they were demanding more and more for this great rate they had, and they looked at it like, well, that's a big client for you. You're not going to let us go. But actually, in the end, when I started looking at the number of hours they were demanding from us, the hourly rate we were getting was not what we demanded. It wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't what I accept. And you get 3 or 4 more clients at the rate you accept, and you're already past that one client.
Yep. I know it's hard, but let them go.
Let them go.
Let them go. Well, that's good. Michelle, I want to thank you for joining me today. Okay, in this week, I want to actually gift you with the first ever Tax Pro Talk T-shirt for being on the show. Especially when Jim's not here. Jim doesn't even have one yet.
Is this an extra large? Like what is
I think
this,
that's actually
Tony?
it could be.
It's lovely.
But again, thanks for joining me on Tax Pro Talk or
#TPT.
#TPT. We'll see you all next time.